In the hushed grandeur of the National Mathematics Championship, under the bright glare of television cameras, 8-year-old Alex, a whirlwind of focused energy, leaned over his final problem. Numbers danced in his mind, equations unfurling, like ribbons. Around him, other finalists, teenagers mostly, chewed on their pen caps, brows furrowed in concentration. But for Alex, it was as if the answer was already there, waiting to be plucked. With a few swift strokes of his pen, he scribbled down the solution, an intricate equation that had stumped contestants twice his age. A collective gasp rippled through the audience as the moderator, Mrs. Davis, announced, "Incredible. Alex has solved the problem in record time." Just then, a sharp voice cut through the applause. "He cheated. I saw him. That little boy couldn't possibly solve something like that honestly." Ms. Albright, a woman with tightly wound nerves and an accusatory finger pointed directly at Alex, stormed forward, her face a mask of outrage. The spotlight, moments ago celebrating brilliance, now focused on the brewing confrontation, the joyous atmosphere instantly replaced by a tense, disbelieving silence. Alex, his eyes wide with confusion, looked up at the woman, the weight of her unfounded accusation already beginning to settle in the stunned silence of the auditorium. The hushed grandeur of the National Mathematics Championship disintegrated into a landscape of whispers and sidelong glances. Alex, still reeling from the shock of Ms. Albright's outburst, was not met with congratulations, but with silent, judgmental stares from parents pulling their own children away. The event organizers, flustered and eager to contain the scandal, quickly ushered the winners off stage and dismissed the crowd, leaving Maria and David standing alone with their bewildered son, the golden trophy of victory now feeling like a lead weight in Alex's hands. The drive home was a desolate journey, the silence in the car heavier than any conversation could have been. Alex stared out the window, his usual chatty enthusiasm replaced by a profound, heartbreaking quiet, and for the first time, Maria and David felt the crushing, suffocating weight of being utterly powerless. The nightmare only intensified at school, where the once beloved child prodigy was treated with a chilling combination of suspicion and pity. Teachers, once effusive in their praise, now viewed him with a professional distance, their eyes darting away whenever he answered a question too quickly. On the playground, Alex found himself a ghost. His friend, Liam, an inseparable playmate since kindergarten, looked away as Alex approached, whispering to another boy before scurrying off. It became a new routine: lunch alone, recess spent watching from the sidelines, and a constant, invisible wall built between him and the classmates who had once admired him. This quiet ostracization, however, was just the front line of the war Ms. Albright was waging. A relentless, vicious campaign had erupted across every online community platform. Under the guise of a concerned parent, she posted on the school's private Facebook group and Nextdoor, sharing a heavily edited video clip of Alex looking at his watch, a clip she deceptively framed as him using a hidden device alongside a lengthy, impassioned tirade about upholding academic integrity and uncovering institutional corruption. She even went so far as to create a fake email address to send anonymous tips to the school board, each one more inflammatory than the last. The sheer volume and malice of her online attacks were overwhelming, a non-stop barrage that made it impossible for Alex's parents to keep up. Every counter-argument they posted was met with a wave of support from Ms. Albright and accusations of their own emotional manipulation. Desperate to protect their son, Maria and David scheduled a meeting with the principal, Ms. Jenkins, who offered only bureaucratic platitudes. "We must follow the proper procedures," she repeated, her voice void of any real sympathy. "An official investigation is underway." The family soon discovered, however, that the investigation was a slow, deliberate exercise in futility, designed more to pacify Ms. Albright than to find the truth. The school's administration, seemingly fearing a lawsuit or bad press, refused to take a definitive stand. David spent sleepless nights drafting emails to the school board and even the superintendent, attaching pages of character references and academic records, only to receive automated replies. The initial rage and confidence they felt the certainty that the truth would quickly prevail had been replaced by a deep-seated exhaustion. Their home, once a vibrant hub of intellectual curiosity and joy, was now a place of silent worrying and unspoken dread. Alex had stopped working on his complex math problems, his notebooks lying abandoned on his desk, the vibrant spark in his eyes extinguished. The family's emotional reserves were running on empty, each new rumor and cold shoulder a fresh wound. To their horror, a friend tipped them off to the reason for the school's inaction. Ms. Albright's sister was a major donor to the school's new performing arts center, and her brother-in-law sat on the school board. This wasn't just a random person with a grudge. She was a powerful, connected force with a vested interest in seeing Alex's reputation destroyed. The realization hit them with the force of a physical blow, confirming their worst fears. The fight for justice was not a simple sprint, but a long, grinding war against an enemy who had already rigged the system against them, leaving them isolated and completely outmatched. The family, tired of being a punching bag for Ms. Albright's online fury, decided they could no longer play defense. The fight had to become a targeted, offensive strike against their accuser. The first order of business was to find a motive, something that would dismantle her righteous facade. While Maria meticulously documented every one of Ms. Albright's public online attacks, David, a software architect by trade, used his skills to dig into her digital past, searching beyond the public-facing profiles. He spent sleepless nights combing through old, deactivated social media accounts and archived forum posts, feeling like a digital detective uncovering a trail of obsessive bitterness. His search eventually led him to a defunct blog from several years ago where Ms. Albright, writing under a pseudonym, documented her daughter's competitive academic journey. The pages were filled with a vitriolic, seething jealousy directed at other children, describing in chilling detail how they were unworthy of their successes. David discovered Ms. Albright's daughter, Chloe, was a talented but perpetually second-place math student, consistently edged out by a rival student at a regional level. The language, the accusations of unfairness, and the deep-seated resentment were a carbon copy of her attacks on Alex. The discovery was like a sudden bolt of clarity. This wasn't about Alex cheating. This was about a lifetime of competitive failure she had projected onto her own child, now seeking a new target in a more public venue. The motive was clear, but proving it in a court of public opinion was another matter entirely. Meanwhile, Maria relentlessly pursued the official record. She spent hours on the phone with the National Mathematics Championships Administrative Office, her voice firm but desperate as she demanded to see the full, unedited surveillance footage from the final round. They met her request with a wall of bureaucracy, citing privacy policies and a protocol of immediate deletion for all raw footage. The more they stonewalled her, the more she knew they were either protecting Ms. Albright or had something to hide, a suspicion that fueled her determination. Just as she was about to give up, an unexpected email appeared in her inbox. It was from Jessica, the mother of one of the teenage finalists. Jessica's email was short and tentative. "I believe you. We need to talk." A few hours later, in a quiet, secluded cafe, Jessica, her voice a low whisper, explained her reason for contacting them. She had initially bought into Ms. Albright's story, but something about the escalating hostility felt wrong. She was also in the parents' group chats and had noticed a seemingly minor detail in a photo Ms. Albright had posted of herself at the competition, a unique security lanyard from one of the VIP sections, a place only officials and specific staff were allowed to be. This small detail, combined with the fact that Ms. Albright's daughter had competed and lost in an earlier round of the same championship, a fact Ms. Albright had conveniently omitted from her public tirades, made Jessica's gut tell her something was off. It was the first solid piece of information they had, a tangible crack in Ms. Albright's carefully constructed lie. With a new lead and a potential witness, Maria and David felt a spark of hope, but it was quickly tempered by a chilling, anonymous email that arrived moments later on David's work account. "Stop digging into my life. Your son's future depends on it." The message was short, but the threat was unmistakable. Ms. Albright knew they were closing in, and she was not going to let them expose her without a fight. The psychological battle was escalating. She was not only a digital manipulator, but also a watchful, vindictive force willing to use fear to silence them. They were no longer fighting a reputation, but a deeply disturbed individual, and for the first time, they felt a real sense of danger. The air in the school board meeting room was thick with a tension so palpable it felt like a physical presence. On one side of the large polished table sat a grim-faced Miss Albright, her back straight and her gaze fixed, a portrait of unwavering self-righteousness. Across from her, David and Maria held hands under the table, their resolve a quiet, steady flame against the storm of the past few weeks. A dozen or so parents had gathered, their faces a mix of curiosity and prejudged certainty. The chairman, a weary-looking man in a suit, began the proceedings. Ms. Albright was given the floor first, and she stood to deliver her practice speech, a cold, clinical recitation of her accusations, detailing what she called the blatant act of cheating and the unacceptable behavior of a child and his enablers. Her voice was steady, but her eyes held a manic glint as she spoke of upholding the integrity of the institution. When she finished, a few of her loyal supporters nodded, a silent applause for the villain they believed to be a hero. Then, it was Maria and David's turn. They did not begin with the defense. Instead, David, his voice trembling slightly but firm, went on the offensive. He didn't just deny. He presented a PowerPoint on his laptop, a digital forensic report of Ms. Albright's long-forgotten online presence. He displayed screenshots of her old blog, reading aloud her angry posts about her daughter, Chloe, and the unjust victories of other students. He paused on one post, where she raged about a girl who consistently placed first in a state competition, describing her with the exact same venom she now directed at Alex. The room's collective gaze shifted to Ms. Albright, whose veneer of composure began to crack. Her lips thinned into a tight line as the cold, hard proof of her long-held jealousy was laid bare. But the final, crushing blow was yet to come. Next, Maria called their ally, Jessica, to the stand. Jessica, her hands clasped tightly, recounted her own journey from an initial believer in Ms. Albright to a skeptic. She bravely revealed the small, telling detail of the VIP security lanyard from the competition that Ms. Albright had on her blog, a detail that proved she wasn't in the audience, she claimed, but had gained unauthorized access to a restricted area where she could have tampered with something. As Jessica spoke, Ms. Albright's face went from pale to a ghastly, sallow white. She tried to interrupt, screaming about libel and defamation, but the chairman gavelled her into silence. David then stood for the final reveal. "Ms. Albright's animosity is not about fair play," he said, his voice now clear and strong. "It's about a deeply personal trauma." He displayed an old newspaper clipping on the screen, yellowed and faded. It was from 30 years ago. An article about a high school debate championship. The headline read, "Disqualification of local star sparks outrage." The article detailed how a top-ranked debater named Alana Jenkins was disqualified for allegedly tampering with her opponent's notes. The story continued, mentioning a mental health crisis and a subsequent withdrawal from academic life. The room was deathly silent as David revealed the final, shocking truth. Ms. Albright's maiden name was Jenkins, and she had been Alana Jenkins. Her entire life had been defined by a single moment of humiliation and failure, a moment she had never moved past. She had sought to relive her own life through her daughter's triumphs, and when that failed, she found a new target in Alex, a child who represented the perfect success she had been denied. The mask she had so carefully maintained for years shattered completely. She sank into her chair, her body trembling, her manic eyes darting around the room before fixing on Alex. Her lips moved, forming silent, desperate words. For Alex, sitting beside his parents, the tension that had gripped him for weeks finally broke. He looked at Ms. Albright, not with fear or anger, but with a sudden, profound understanding of her brokenness. He wasn't a cheater. He was simply the unfortunate recipient of a lifetime of pain, a wave of relief, so strong it nearly buckled his knees, washed over him, and a small, genuine smile, the first one in weeks, appeared on his face. The school board members, their own faces etched with a combination of shock and pity, had seen and heard enough. With a single motion, the chairman declared the accusations against Alex null and void. The family was officially exonerated, leaving Ms. Albright's life and her carefully constructed lies to crumble into dust. The aftermath of the school board meeting for Ms. Albright was swift and devastating, a dramatic unraveling of a life built on a foundation of bitterness and lies. The revelation of her true identity, Helena Jenkins, the disgraced debater, alongside the irrefutable evidence of her manipulative online campaign and physical tampering, spread like wildfire through the parent community and local media. The whispers that had once plagued Alex now turned into a deafening roar of condemnation directed squarely at her. Within days, the school board, pressured by a rightfully outraged parent body and fearing legal repercussions, issued a public apology to Alex and his family, condemning Ms. Albright's actions and banning her from all school grounds and events. The district initiated internal investigations into how her initial accusations were handled, a process that ultimately led to Ms. Jenkins, the principal, quietly stepping down from her position a few months later. Ms. Albright's sister, the major school donor, swiftly distanced herself, making a public statement condemning her siblings' behavior and reiterating her commitment to the school, effectively cutting Ms. Albright off from her most powerful connections. The community, once swayed by her cries for justice, now saw her for what she truly was, a vindictive individual projecting her own unresolved failures onto an innocent child. A civil lawsuit for defamation was immediately filed by Maria and David, seeking not just financial compensation but a public, legal acknowledgement of Ms. Albright's wrongdoing. The legal battle was long and emotionally draining, but armed with David's digital forensics and Jessica's eyewitness testimony, they ultimately prevailed. The court ordered Ms. Albright to pay significant damages and, more importantly, issued a permanent restraining order, ensuring she could never again approach Alex or his family. Her carefully constructed life, designed to protect her from the echoes of her past shame, was now completely demolished, leaving her to face public scorn and legal repercussions without any remaining allies or credibility. For Alex, the journey back from the brink of emotional withdrawal was gradual but profound. The initial public vindication brought a fragile sense of relief, but the deeper healing took time. His return to school was different this time. Instead of whispers, there were apologies and renewed friendships. Liam, his old friend, was the first to approach, offering a heartfelt apology, and soon, Alex was back in the thick of playground games and classroom discussions. The experience, while traumatic, had ironically deepened his understanding of human nature, making him more empathetic and resilient. His passion for mathematics, though momentarily dimmed, reignited with an even fiercer intensity. He wasn't just solving problems, he was seeing the beauty and logic in the world, unburdened by external validation. He returned to his advanced math club, not with the quiet confidence of a prodigy unaware of the world's harshness, but with the quiet strength of someone who had faced adversity and emerged stronger. He continued to excel, but now, his success felt more personal, more rooted in his own joy of discovery rather than external competition. The ordeal forged an unbreakable bond within the family. Maria and David, who had always been loving parents, transformed into fierce protectors and unwavering advocates. They had fought for their son with every fiber of their being, united against a common, insidious enemy. The late-night discussions, the shared anxieties, and the moments of despair and triumph had woven their individual lives into an even tighter tapestry of mutual respect and love. Alex, witnessing his parents' unwavering belief in him, understood the profound strength of family. He knew that no matter what challenges he faced in the future, he would always have their unconditional support. Their home, once clouded by worry, now hummed with a renewed sense of peace and joy. The experience had taught them all that integrity, truth, and unwavering support for one another were the most powerful forces against deception and malice. Alex's future, once uncertain under the shadow of false accusations, now shone brighter than ever, not just because of his prodigious talent, but because of the indelible lesson that standing firm in the face of injustice, even when the odds seem insurmountable, ultimately leads to true vindication and a life lived with unwavering conviction.